Hello all, and welcome to the FPO Online podcast with me, Mouth of the Midlands, Derek Beck. For those discovering this for the first time, FPO Online, FPO for short, is a player versus player / simulation based Fire Pro Wrestling World promotion, with monthly shows being hosted on YouTube and Twitch. Appearing on the shows yourself is as easy as joining the FPO's Discord server, where you can find even more information such as show dates, match schedules, the full roster list, areas where you can cut your own promos, and so on. Links to the YouTube, Twitch and Discord pages are in the description below. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? A few coronavirus and non-coronavirus related reasons had forced me to put this series temporarily on the back burner. I'll try and cover as much as I can in this episode, but there's going to be a lot to get through, so apologies if I miss anything noteworthy. I hope you enjoyed this longer episode either way. So, first, let's go through all the pay-per-views we've had since the last episode. As always, I suggest you go watch them for yourself to get a better picture of what went down on those nights, and to just get some great entertainment in general. If you just want a quick summary or refresher on them, however, you're at the right place. Seeing as I'm behind schedule, I won't be going into as much detail as I usually do, but I will touch upon the most important stuff. Showdown will be the first show we touch upon. This was a collaborative effort between FPO and Wrestling Cup Classic, another Fire Pro promotion. Most of the matches, with a few exceptions, pitted FPO's finest against WCC's finest. The first match was one of those exceptions, a WCC-only tag team match with Javon Payne and Noah Underhill winning against Tommy Smith and Wendell Stevens. The second match was a female triple threat match, pitting WCC's Julia Garcia and two FPO competitors, Kerry Payne and Harakiri, against each other. FPO simultaneously won and lost that match, with Kerry KOing Harakiri with the Painkiller Powerbomb. The third match was another tag match, this time with WCC's Amazon Kid and Kid Tarzan losing to FPO's Hirada Paku and Scott Walker, better known as HP. More women's action was to follow in the fourth match, with two WCC competitors, Brooklyn Thompson and Liberty Bell, and two FPO competitors, Sakura Chiyoko and Shimina Villalobos, pitted against each other. Team FPO picked up the win once again, with Shimina pinning Liberty after hitting a Canadian destroyer. Team FPO picked up yet another win in its first singles match of the night, when Stitch prayer bombed and pinned WCC's Shooterman in the first round of a 3-man match. Team WCC would eventually pick up its only win of the night in a stable versus stable match. The Coven, consisting of Zach Roper, Emo Boy and Carl Miller, with the villain George in the manager role, faced the Park Pack, consisting of Parker Thomas, Enrico Volkov and Heather Thomas. It was Emo Boy who got the decisive pin after hitting Enrico with a Michinoku driver. JB and I, along with debuting third commentator, Smooth Keith Miller, rejoined the commentary booth for the final 3 matches of the night. The first one was for the FPO Women's Championship, with Kara Suika defending against Jessica Stevenson. Jessica sealed her win with a kiss in what must be the most bizarre finish to a match FPO has ever had. That was followed by a debut match for the Tab Cola Coalition, who had a good showing despite eventually losing to Fuerza Iberica. The final match of the night was an Iron Man match for the FPO Grand Championship, with Mateo Arroyo attempting to win back the title from Lucas Levette, who he had lost the title to at last call. The match started out fairly even, with both competitors picking up a point early on, but Lucas kept having the edge as the match wore on. Sakura Chiyoko and Tahano X cancelled out each other's run-ins, and, in the end, Lucas successfully defended the title with 5 pinfalls to 2. The response to Showdown was a very positive one, with the show reportedly bringing in plenty of new fans for both FPO and WCC. Already established fans, however, criticised the one-sided nature of the show, with one YouTuber absolutely eviscerating the FPO Grand Championship match in an online review. The general view amongst fans was that FPO benefited from the collaboration far more than WCC did, which may have contributed to the eventual breaking down of their working relationship, although both companies deny this to be the reason. Now I'll give a brief summary of the Fuego show that happened on March the 21st. The first match had Randy Gordo pinning both Doc Thomas and Travista in a 3-man elimination match. The second match had Harakiri forcing Heather Thomas to tap out in a triple threat match, which also included Kerry Payne. After that was a tag team match where the Park Pack picked up a surprise pinfall victory against the Tab Cola Coalition. Despite their victory, Stitch quickly reminded them of their incompetence in a backstage interview with Skim Jim, explaining that he managed to thwart their kidnapping of him thanks to Enrico Volkov being unable to hold his liquor. Stitch himself had a match that night, bringing out his demonic tormentor persona to face Dark Clown, who had finally earned himself a full-time contract by that point. Chris Tedsy Teds and Bill Dobson were both there as managers, and did their best to interfere as much as possible. In the end, it was Dark Clown who emerged the victor, winning by KO. After a brief Lucas Levette promo was a match between Bill Dobson and El Valiente. This time the manager roles went to Travista and Kuro Godoy, respectively. El Valiente picked up the pinfall in this one. After that match, Jessica Stevenson came to announce who she would be defending the women's title against at One Glorious Night. The plan was for it to be Harakiri, but Heather Thomas interrupted to say that she had put a stop to that. With the help of her brother Parker, she turned the match into a handicap match, with both her and Moeko Ichihashi making a joint challenge for the title. The final match of the night pitted Jobbernaut, Wesley Buchanan and Jodie Winters against each other in a dark match. Jodie, despite losing to the Park Pack earlier that night, managed to KO Wesley for the victory. On to the next show, the Texas Tag Grand Tournament. This tournament would be to decide who would be the first ever FPO Tag Team Champions. 8 teams would compete, and they consisted of established tag teams, singles competitors with their managers, and a few reluctant alliances. Zack Rover and Carmilla Nocturne were the first casualties of the night, losing a grueling match against HP. Dark Clown and Bill Dobson, soon to be known later as the Scumbag Circus, were the next to go, losing to Stitch and his manager Tedsy. Kerry Payne and Kai T of Electronica had no chance against Superkick City despite their best efforts, and the Tab Cola Coalition won a hard-fought battle against early favourites Power of Carnage. The team of Jake Fury and Jobbernaut were the next to go, losing to Bad Diamond. The Park Pack had 2 teams in the tournament, but both crashed out early, with Parker Thomas and Enrico Volkov losing to Fuerza Iberica and Dark Thomas and Moeko Ichihashi losing to Tahano X and Skin Jim. In the final match of the first round, Royal Flush were another team tipped to do well but ended up bowing out early. Ximena Villalobos, competing with her husband Randy Gordo, got the honour of being the only female competitor to make it to the second round, after scoring a sneaky roll-up counter against Manolito Arroyo. On to the next round. HP were the final top team to go after suffering a surprise defeat to Stitch and Tetsu. Superkick City's easy ride skidded to a halt at the hands of the Tab Cola Coalition, while Bad Diamond ended up losing to Fuerza Iberica via countout. Skim Jim, with the help of Tahano X, delivered the final shock of the tournament, pinning Ximena Villalobos after a Russian leg sweep counter and knocking both her and Randy Gordo out of the tournament. Any hope of having surprise tournament winners, however, was snuffed out at the semi-finals. Stitch couldn't save Tetsu from being KO'd by Jody Winters of the Tab Cola Coalition, while Skim Jim was too late in saving Tahano X from a sunset flip bomb by Kuro Godoy of Fuerza Iberica. The final match was decided. Tab Cola Coalition versus Fuerza Iberica. Who would win? The money seemed to be on Fuerza, but it was the Coalition who would get the honour of being the first ever FPO Tag Team Champions, with Tab Cola forcing El Valiente to tap out to the Sharpshooter. The verdict from the fans seemed to be very positive, with most of the matches getting high ratings. While there were a few gripes about the slapdash nature of some of the teams, the general consensus was that the right team won and the show was entertaining regardless. Thanks to the coronavirus, Fuego was forced to take a brief hiatus. Despite this, Tahano X still managed to find a venue in Texas to put on a house show. A show that has been dubbed by the fans as FP Nowhere. It's this show that will get the next brief summary from me. The first match was Trevista versus Bill Dobson, with Bill winning by submission and delivering a post-match beatdown, seemingly dissatisfied with Trevista's managerial skills at the previous Fuego. Next was a debut showing for Bannon X, who ended up getting a hazing from Randy Gordo. Despite the metaphorical and literal squash match, Bannon would redeem himself somewhat later on in the show. Kuro Godoy and Jake Fury would face each other next, with El Valiente acting as Kuro's manager. Despite the best efforts of El Valiente, Kuro ended up getting knocked out by a devastating reverse Death Valley driver, leaving Jake as the victor. A recap of Tab Cola Coalition's victory at the tag team tournament only served to rub salt in Kuro and Valiente's wounds, reminding them of their falling at the final hurdle. A female fatal four-way match was up the next, the participants being Kaiti, Kara Suika, Heather Thomas and Harakiri. This match had most of the focus on Heather and Hara, with Hara wanting some revenge after being attacked by Heather's brother Parker at the last Fuego show. It would be Kaiti, however, who would get the pin on Heather, causing Hara and Kara, there really needs to be a tag team, to gang up on Kaiti after the match. Tag team action up next, with the debuting Fire and Brimstone picking up a victory against HP. After that, the show cut to a brief visit to the hospital, where Stitch was checking in on his manager Tetsu, who had been injured by Jody Winters at the tag team tournament. The final match had both Bannon X and Trevista come out for a dark match, with the aim of settling a grudge they have fostered elsewhere. It was here where Bannon made up for his earlier loss to Randy Gordo by pinning Trevista to get his first win for the company. And now for one glorious night, FPO's biggest show of the year, which was also the first leg of a European tour, with this show being held at Munich, Germany. It was this show that had its first ever FPO Royal Rumble match, with the winner to face Lucas Levette for the title in the final match of the night. Raymond Patterson and Pedro Ramon were the first two to enter, with plenty more entering as the match went on. A number of fan favourites came and went. We had guests from other promotions. Mick Mahoney suffered a ref bump. We even had a special appearance from Scott Steiner. But it was Randy Gordo who would end up winning the match, throwing out Dark Clown to secure his place in the title bout. The match after that would be a 6-woman tag team gauntlet match, with Kerry Payne, Kaiti and Shimina Villalobos of Electronica facing the team of Harakiri, Kara Suika, I said that they needed to be a tag team, and the debuting Shadow Dar. Hara was eliminated by Kerry first via pinfall, who was then eliminated by Kara via submission. Kaiti would then eliminate both Hara and Shadow via pinfall to win the match for her team. Poor Shimina didn't even get a look in. More tag team action after that, with Fuerza Iberica taking on HP. Kuro Godoy picked up the pinfall against Scott Walker here, after Hirada Paku inadvertently interrupted Scott's moonsault elbow drop attempt. Following that was a continuation of the feud between Trevista and Bannon X, with the match taking place in a cage. Dark Clown made his second appearance of the night as Bannon's manager, although how helpful DC was is up for debate, as he spent the majority of the match situated halfway up the cage wall. Whether it was mind games or sheer madness, the end result was Trevista picking up the pinfall after a long, brutal battle. Next up was Jessica Stevenson defending the FPO Women's Championship against Heather Thomas and Moeko Ichihashi in a handicap match. As mentioned earlier, this match was supposed to be a singles match between Jessica and Harakiri, but Heather, with the help of her brother Parker, had it changed to this. Hara would run in to try and even the odds midway through the match, but the numbers game would prove too much for Jessica, and Heather would score the decisive pin to declare her and Moeko joint champions. Another grudge match up next, with Stitch and his manager Tedzy facing Parker Thomas and Enrico Volkov of the Park Pack in a 3-round time bomb death match. Stitch, wanting revenge for his kidnapping at the hands of the Park Pack, did his best to train Tedzy in the art of death matches, or at the very least used it as an excuse to beat the ever-loving shit out of him. But Parker and Enrico held on for the full 3 rounds before the time bomb went off, forcing the match to be thrown out as a draw. Before the main event, the Tab Cola Coalition would have their first FPO Tag Team Championship defense against brothers Mateo and Malalito Arroyo of Royal Flush. Mateo, who had reportedly gone into hiding after his defeat to Lucas Levette at Showdown, made his long-awaited return to try and, once again, make Royal Flush the most dominant team in FPO. Ring rust seemed to get the better of him though, with Jody Winters pinning him to retain the titles. Now we come to the grand finale of the show. FPO Grand Champion Lucas Levitt defending the title against Royal Rumble winner Randy Gordo in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Lucas certainly had the edge being the fresher man, but Randy fought hard to remain in the match. As the match went on, the focus went more and more on the referee, who had repeatedly took too long to get into position for pin counts. In the end, Randy emerged victorious after hitting Lucas with the skewer, followed by a top rope body splash. This move reportedly cracked 3 of Lucas's ribs, rendering him unable to compete for at least the following 2 shows. This has neither been confirmed nor denied, although Lucas did confirm to fans that he picked up an injury during the match. The show was very well received by the fans, with both the Royal Rumble match and the Grand Championship bout gaining very high ratings. The only minor gripe from fans seemed to be the time bomb deathmatch ending in a draw, with some arguing that both a clear winner and a different match type would have made for a better match overall. Either way, Tahano X will take comfort in the fact that pulling out all the stops for the show seems to have paid off. Fuego made its return after its brief hiatus, stopping by Manchester, England for the second leg of FPO's European tour. The action started with 2 debuting competitors, Elas Pantapageros, better known as the Scarecrow, and Tom. No, really, he's just called Tom. Anyway, both guys put up quite the fight, but it was the Scarecrow who stole the victory with a sneaky roll-up. Up next was Kuro Godoy vs Bill Dobson, with El Valiente and Dark Clown acting as respective managers. Bill made it known in a promo at the start of the show that he was still salty over his loss to El Valiente at the previous Fuego and wanted revenge on this show. You could argue that he did get his revenge despite eventually losing via disqualification, with Bannon X joining him and DC for a post-match brawl. The 3 of them would declare themselves to be the Scumbag Circus afterwards. Kerry Payne and Kai T of Electronica were next on the card, competing in a tag team match against Shadow Dart and Alison Anderson, the latter of which was making her debut. Kerry, once again, showed the world why Electronica are one of the most dominant stables in FPO by hitting Alison with the Painkiller Powerbomb for the win. After the match, Cody would show the locker room how to perform a moonsault elbow drop 3 times after Shadow Dart tried in vain to enact some post-match revenge. More tag team action after that, with Fire and Brimstone picking up a submission victory against Power of Carnage. Jessica Stevenson then put her title rematch opportunity on the line against Roeko Ichihashi in a no disqualification match. Harakiri and Heather Thomas were the respective managers for the match and spent most of it either fighting each other or littering the ring with weapons. Jessica would ultimately seal her rematch opportunity with a sister twister. The main event for the night would be another title opportunity match, with Trevista needing to win against FPO Grand Champion Randy Gordo to earn a title match against him at the next pay-per-view. Trevista would be the one to start the mind games by hiring Randy's former wife, Betty Big Belly, as a surprise manager. Ximena Villalobos, Randy's current wife, even the playing field somewhat, but Trevista still managed to pick up the win to secure his place on the card for the next pay-per-view. The final match of the night was a debutant dark match, pitting newbies Cassidy Benoit and Psycho Pyro against each other. Psycho Pyro was joined by Dark Clown, who had scouted her and reportedly wanted her as part of the newly formed Scumbag Circus. Despite her dominant performance and eventual win, Bill Dobson was reportedly unimpressed with what he saw and refused to have her on the team. Which leads us to the most recent pay-per-view, Vitality 2. This is the last one I'm going to talk about on this episode, promise. Madrid, Spain would be the backdrop for this show, the third and final stop of the European tour. With Spanish surroundings comes the debut of the Spanish announce team, further expanding FPO's fan reach. On to the matches. Tag team action up first, with Fire and Brimstone taking on the newly formed Adrenalina, consisting of the Scarecrow and the developmental talent Brian Kinghorn. Brian, tipped to be the next Drew McIntyre, simply because he's Scottish, looked strong on his TV debut and picked up a surprise submission victory against Fire, although how much the Scarecrow carried him throughout the match is to be debated. Either way, we will see if Tahano X thinks Brian's ready to make the next step up, or if he needs some more time in the FPO dojo. A fatal four-way match was to follow, with another debutante, Evander Sweets, taking on Jodie Winters, Enrico Volkov and Bannon X. Bannon picked up the victory in a match that, at times, resembled more of a barroom brawl for the wrestling match, seizing on Jodie's diverted attention to perform a roll-up pin on Evander. Yet another debut, and a grudge match to boot, with Trent Hart Jr. taking on Parker Thomas, with the stipulation that, if Trent loses, he must join the Park Pack. Trent had initially refused to join FPO on account of Parker being there due to an incident at Parker Thomas Wrestling, known in wrestling circles as the Vancouver Screwjob. However, he agreed to do the match if it meant that he got the opportunity to kick Parker's ass to Kingdom Come. Despite interference from Enrico Volkov, Trent was able to pick up the win and save himself from being Parker's lackey yet again. Whether he chooses to remain as part of the FPO roster remains to be seen. Next up was the Battle of the Clowns, as Dark Clown took on another debutant, Dirty Dishes the Clown, inside a steel cage. Every match from here on in would be won inside this cage. The action briefly left the cage for a while, with Dark Clown even making his way to the back, thinking that he had won. Lord knows why he thought that though. Dirty Dishes would eventually be the one to actually make the pinfall to win the match. Ask and ye shall receive. The match between Stitch and Tahano X at the previous Vitality was so good they had to do it again. Tahano had said as such that his win that night was one of the best matches of his career, and so was more than happy to book it again. Stitch, who had made his FPO debut in the previous bout, opted for his demonic tormentor persona this time round, presumably hoping that the mask would give him +1 strength in cage matches. Once again, he actually did not remain in the cage, with the fight repeatedly being taken to the entrance ramp. Stitch would eventually wise up to Tahano's goading and opted to remain in the cage, which was the only place you could get the win. And he got the win, with a crucifix pin, followed by a prayer bomb after the match as a final screw you to Tahano. title match up next, with Jessica Stevenson getting a rematch for the FPO Women's Championship against Heather Thomas in a far more even matchup than last time round. No Moeko Ichihashi to help out Heather, no harakiri to remind us all that she was the one promised a title shot. Just two women, a ref, and a cage full of weapons. Surprisingly, all the action remained inside the cage this time, with the signature submissions being pulled out early. Heather dodging the sister twister, and Jessica twice escaping the flare de lis. It was a third orange crush bomb that eventually proved too much for Heather, and Jessica won back the women's title. That title win, however, was soon to be null and void when Jessica was confronted by Moeko after the match, making the very flimsy but nevertheless valid claim that, as co-owner of the title, she never got a title defence and therefore never lost the title. Fuerza Iberica continued their feud with Bill Dobson, with El Valiente facing him in what many fans considered to be the best match of the night. Bill looked incredibly strong at the start of the match, but needed to have followed Stitch's lead in not being goaded to the outside of the ring. Valiente, with more room to manoeuvre and less chance of being hit with weapons, mounted a comeback and wore the bigger man down. By the time Bill got the action back in the ring, the damage had already been done, and Valiente was able to finish the job with a Canadian destroyer. The final match of the night had FPO Grand Champion Randy Gordo defending against Trevista, who had beaten Randy at the previous show to win the opportunity for the title. Betty Big Belly, whose appearance in that match was enough to put Randy off his game and cause him to lose, was nowhere to be seen on this night, but Trevista felt that he could get the job done without her this time. Once again, no attempts were made to take the action outside of the ring, with Randy reluctant to do any sort of climbing, and Trevista being all too well aware of that fact. Both dished out a lot of punishment, but it was Trevista who had more in the tank, and a lethal knee strike combination, followed by a deadlift German suplex, was enough to finally put Randy away and win Trevista the title. Betty finally showed her face after the match, celebrating Trevista's win backstage. Early fan reaction has indicated that Vitality 2 was a massive improvement over the previous one, with the match between Bill Dobson and El Valiente being the main highlight. The fans felt, however, that the Stitch and Tahano X rematch did not live up to the previous one, with their constant goading of each other to get in or out of the ring repeatedly grinding the match to a halt. Fans also questioned the logic of Fire and Brimstone losing to a developmental talent, although having that match start the show softened the blow somewhat. And now, finally, we get to the news and rumours part of the podcast. Most of the new signings are ones I've mentioned during the pay-per-view catch-up, so I won't repeat them here. A few new signings I didn't get to mention include Cyrus Argyle, Rabid Wolf Herman, Pedro Jesus, newest Fuerza Iberica member Sandro, former K-pop star Hana Sakura, and new referee Freddie Long. Doc Clown's wife, Mrs. Clown, is said to be negotiating a contract, while Jake Fury has had his contract terminated due to a rumoured backstage spat with Tahano X. Kara Suika is swarming her own stable of misfits, and is rumoured to be bringing in some more who have yet to put pen to paper. I've already mentioned Brian Kinghorn, but 3 other trainees are rumoured to be close to getting their debuts as well. Jason Judge, Mason Devon, and Christy Adams, along with Brian, have been singled out by Tahano as his standout students, and have collectively been given the name the Squash Squad by certain members of the FPO main roster. As for the next show, FPO will now be going to Canada for the next two shows. Alberta will play host in the next Fuego, with Toronto hosting the next major pay-per-view. The Scumbag Circus are confirmed to be facing Trevista and the Scarecrow, while Jessica Stevenson will have one last attempt to win back the Women's Championship with a match against Moeko Ichihashi. Matches rumoured to happen are a number 1 contenders match between Randy Gordo and Lucas Yvette, the latter of which has been out recently with injury, and a debutante versus debutante match between Pedro Jesus and Wolf Herman. Elsewhere, both Bannon X and Dark Clown are rumoured to be close to getting title shots, while Harakiri will most likely get the title shot she was initially promised back in March. Some leaked draft designs for a new belt seem to suggest that Tahano is looking to add a mid-card title to the mix, although who would be the first to challenge for it is anyone's guess. A number of fans have even campaigned for a deathmatch title to be added, although that seems extremely unlikely to happen at this moment. And that wraps it up for this very long episode of the Fire Pro Online podcast. If you have reached this point, I thank you for listening and your patience, and I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, apologies for the delay in getting this episode out, and hopefully the next one will be out in a much quicker fashion. Either way, you can find more info about FPO on their Discord server and watch the shows via the YouTube and Twitch pages, links in the description. Until next time though, I'm Mouth of the Midlands, Derek Beck, and I'm out of here.